guys enjoy your afternoon sessions? Raise your hands. All right. It is my pleasure to introduce Kevin Keene. He is the president and CEO of the American Beverage Association and the chair of the American Beverage Foundation for a Healthy America. He's joined us to announce the winners of the 2024 Childhood Obesity Prevention and Environmental Health and Sustainability Awards. Since 2012, through this amazing partnership, we've awarded more than $6.5 million to dozens of cities across the country. We mayors understand, and the American Beverage Association understands, that the best public-private partnerships deliver critical resources directly to where they're needed. Today, another 9 cities will share $750,000 in grant awards. Yay! I love that. I love it when they give us money. We look forward to continuing this vital work with your support well into the future. So let me introduce Kevin Keene, everyone. Come on out.
Great. Well, thank you, Mayor Sheevy. Appreciate your leadership and all that you do for your community and mayors across the country. Good afternoon. It's great to be here with you. It's an honor to be with all of you and have the opportunity to connect with and work alongside mayors across our great country. As president and CEO of the American Beverage Association, I can assure you that America's beverage companies recognize and appreciate the important work you all do back home to make our communities stronger, healthier, and vibrant. In fact, this is one of our favorite meetings every year, and every time we get a chance to meet and work with mayors is a blessing. Now, I have to be straight with you. I came up governor. I worked for a governor, a guy named Tommy Thompson, when he served as governor of Wisconsin. And he had a really strong point of view about mayors and cities. And it was this: no one has a tougher job than a mayor. And that we need to make sure we're helping our mayors and taking care of cities, because a successful city is essential to a vibrant state. And so that value has been ingrained in myself throughout my career. I've taken that to the American Beverage Association, where certainly my members, including our biggest members, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and Keurig Dr. Pepper, who work in your communities and live in your communities, value the work you do and appreciate how hard a job you have. In fact, my former governor had one job he always wanted and never got, and that was mayor of Elroy, Wisconsin, his small hometown. So our member companies and their employees pride themselves on contributing to the communities in which they live, work, and operate. In fact, we like to say that we are American companies that make American products with American workers in America's cities and hometowns. And in doing so, we are providing more than 270,000 good-paying, family-supporting jobs in the cities you serve. And we care about those communities and helping make them healthier and more sustainable in so many different ways. That's why American beverage companies are taking intentional actions to support consumers and find them balance by providing more beverage choices with less sugar than ever and smaller portion sizes. In fact, nearly 60% of the beverages we sell today, so we're talking about what goes off the shelves in stores, 60% have 0 sugar. So 60% of what's going off the shelves today has 0 sugar. And that's thank you. And that's a tribute to the innovation of our great companies. And while there's much more work to be done on that front, we are going to stay at it and continue this transformation. And we appreciate the partnership with the U.S. Conference of Mayors and all of our partnerships with you all to help make this happen. We also have made significant progress in making our communities more environmentally sustainable, because that is just as important as well. We are making 100% recyclable containers for all of our beverage products, including our plastic bottles. Thank you. So all of those bottles are made to be remade. And when we get them back, we will turn those bottles into new bottles made out of 100% recycled plastic. So that is the new sustainable modern plastic bottle, one that is fully recyclable, fully circular, and ultimately helps keep it out of the landfills and waterways and the environment. And with that, we have a Every Bottle Back initiative where we are investing and leveraging more than $400 million in investments in cities and helping to modernize recycling infrastructure. So we hope you take a look at that program too and where we might be able to helpful to you all on that front. Through these efforts and more, we are fully committed to working in partnership with the mayors, all of you, and strengthening communities across the country. And before you head back home, I hope you'll take a moment to connect with our booth just outside this hall here. Now, thank you for listening to some of the things that we're working on with you, but let's get to the money. And so now I want to get into the grant program and announce and present our winners of the grants this year through the American Beverage Foundation for a Healthy America and the U.S. Conference of Mayors long-standing partnership. Today we are proud to recognize those efforts and announce recipients of the 2024 Childhood Obesity Prevention and Environmental Health and Sustainability Awards. So here are the winners. First, a quick background. Third place winners in each category will take home a $15,000 grant for their program. And second place winners will take home $50,000. And the first place winners in the three categories will take home grants ranging from $125,000 to $250,000. So let's dive in. In the small city category, the third place grant goes to Mayor Sloan Spalding of New Albany, Ohio, for Fun and Fit Kids, Healthy Habit Heroes. This program aims to increase access to fresh fruits and vegetables and establish cook and nutrition programs and walking clubs for grade school children. In second place, let's please recognize Mayor Alma Hernandez of Suisun City, California, for Suisun City Fit. This project will promote exercise from local youth from elementary school through 9th grade through a 6-week physical activity and nutrition education class, which culminates with a half-mile, 3K, and 5K youth run. So, man, I couldn't do any of those right now. So, great work, Mayor, and we appreciate being able to support your efforts there. So now on to the first place winner for the small city category, and that is Mayor Derek L. Henry of Daytona Beach, Florida, for Mayor's Math and Fitness Boot Camp. So Mayor Henry will be receiving a $125,000 grant for this program, and we have a video to tell you more about it. So let's take a moment to see the video, please.
Welcome to Daytona Beach, one of America's fastest growing cities. It is a primary objective for me to inspire exercise, movement, learning. I think they all go together. We know that in the summer that there's this, what we call in education, brain drain, educational slippage or loss. We want to abate that. We also want it to be fun. The Mayor's Math and Fitness Boot Camp is just that. It's math and it's fitness and it's boot camp.
The students are singing, they're dancing, they're exercising, and they're learning simultaneously. We know that every child can achieve. And when you speak their language, we see the difference.
Last year at summer camp, we had it at 2 camps with wonderful success. The math fluency went up remarkably. Some of these children didn't know any of their math facts and got all the way up to a B.
And we definitely see an increase, not only in the test score, but also in confidence and self-esteem and motivation to learn.
They go away and they say, man, I never knew math could be so much fun.
4, 8, 12, 16.
With this funding source, I'm excited because all of the children who attend our community programs will now get what only a few have been availed to in the past.
This year, we're going to not only do it at all 4 camps, but we're going to bring it to our one after-school program. The idea that we can expand it, more than double it, and bring in all these other programs is such a blessing.
Any number that's multiplied by 0.
Getting the grant means the world to me because I know that we are going to change the world. These students will grow. They will improve. They will be inspired. So thank you, and we are extremely appreciative of it.
To the American Beverage Foundation for a Healthy America, and to my friends at the U.S. Conference of Mayors, thank you. Thank you on behalf of our children. Thank you on behalf of our citizens. You've made Daytona Beach a better place, a safer place, a healthier place. And our children will be the beneficiaries because of your generosity.
So we have Mayor Henry here in front. Thank you, Mayor, for your wonderful program. And ABA team, we're bringing this boot camp into the office. We could use some of that ourselves. Now for the Medium City Award winners. Third place award goes to Mayor Stephen Reed of Montgomery, Alabama, for his wonderful program, Cultivating Healthy Futures, which helps bring together municipal resources with local nonprofit organizations, businesses, and volunteers to build a community-scale composting program for the city. So thank you, Mayor Reed, for your great program. Second place goes to Mayor Joseph Ganem of Bridgeport, Connecticut, to improve the infrastructure of community gardens throughout the city, and also expand capacity to meet the dire need for fresh produce and provide gardening instruction and nutrition education classes to youth and families. So thank you to Mayor Ganem in Bridgeport. And now for our Medium City first place winner. This year, the award goes to Alhambra, California Mayor Ross J. Mazza for the San Gabriel Valley Regional Food Recovery Program. Thank you, Mayor. And let's learn more about your program.
We are the gateway to the San Gabriel Valley. We are the first city right after Los Angeles, known for our rich cultural heritage, our diversity. 4 out of 5 residents identify as either Hispanic or Asian. We have residents that are very proud to call Alhambra home.
Hello. How you doing? Ross Mazza, nice to meet you. We're excited to try to bring awareness to our recycling program.
The San Gabriel Valley Food Recovery Program came about in response to our California Senate Bill 1383, which focuses on organics recycling and food recovery.
There's 2 main goals of the Regional Food Recovery Program. The first is addressing food insecurity among the San Gabriel Valley residents. The second is addressing climate change.
Food insecurity is real. Hunger is real in the lives of the families that we serve. They are not maybe knowing where their next meal is going to come from.
With the food insecurity, it's heartbreaking. You want to make sure that it is addressed. So this program allows for the food that would otherwise be wasted to be redirected.
Thank you, guys.
From an environmental perspective, when food is sent to a landfill, the food breaks down and it emits methane. Methane is both more toxic and potent than carbon dioxide. In LA County, about 4,000 Tons of food a day are tossed into landfill, so anything we can do in our program to reduce that really has a very, very direct benefit on the residents in our area.
Certain types of businesses, such as grocery stores, wholesale vendors, and restaurants, are now mandated by the state and city code to begin donating all their excess edible food to food recovery pantries.
The new grant is going to be super helpful in providing resources to these small nonprofit organizations that are doing the bulk of the work around food recovery. This new grant will allow them to purchase different equipment or pay for staff that they need to be able to do this food recovery work.
Nice to see you. I'll see you guys again. Okay.
Will you coloring book?
Yes, please.
We thank the American Beverage Foundation for Healthy America and the U.S. Conference of Mayors for the opportunity. We are extremely grateful. We recognize how beneficial it's going to be not only for the city of Alhambra, but for the efforts of the region as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Enjoy.
And Mayor Mazza is with us here as well. Thank you, Mayor, for your leadership and success with a tremendous program. Okay, on to the final category of large city. The third place award for large city goes to Philadelphia and newly elected Mayor Sherelle Parker. Thank you. And the grant looks to support her program of Students Run Philly Style, which pairs volunteer mentors with teams of students to inspire them to push themselves and prepare them to train for the ultimate challenge, completing a long-distance race. So congratulations, Mayor. And my daughter's too old, but she lives in Philly, and maybe we can get her to run that race too. Second place goes to Mayor Michelle Wu of Boston for Connect, Learn, and Explore. The initiative aims to make the city's policy and infrastructure investments in family-friendly and Green New Deal initiatives tangible and measurable for children and their families by dedicating resources to ensure every child learns to swim, bike, play a sport, participate in the arts, and grow a green generation. So congratulations, Mayor Wu. And finally, our first place award for large city goes to Pittsburgh Mayor Ed Gainey for Soil Mill PGH. And we are proud to announce that Mayor Gainey will receive a $250,000 grant for this program. So please join me in applauding Mayor Gainey, and then we'll take a look at his initiative.
I love Pittsburgh. I love this city. Whatever we have to do to make this area the most livable city in America, that's our plan. We heard the outcry of the community. They said they wanted a government-led initiative when it came to composting, and that's what this is all about.
One of the biggest challenges in addressing and developing more sustainable practices is waste management, diverting as much as possible from landfills.
Soil Mill PGH is our opportunity to work on bringing composting to scale for the city of Pittsburgh and our surrounding region.
Thank you for joining us here today. Just to introduce a little bit about Soil Mill PGH.
A pilot program of 300 residents explored several different options for how composting could be added to their way of managing their waste.
Yes, that's crazy.
Half of them did the process of having somebody come to their home to pick up their composting. And then the other half tested one of the other variety of methods. We tried about 8 different methods so that we can start to really get in crunch those numbers as to where we as a city should be investing our time and our efforts and our funding in order to try to expand our program going forward.
Because as we do research and development and we find different ways to go down this road to make sure that we're creating an infrastructure that can reach multiple communities, cost is always going to be part of that. convenient. We understand that the more convenient we make it, the more people will use it.
One of the things that this grant funding is going to allow us to do is to build capacity. So we'll have one person who's going to be situated here in the city to work on this problem from the Pittsburgh side of things. On top of that, we'll have another person who's situated at one of our partner organizations, Connect, who's going to help us to improve our region as well.
Our governments, they wanted us to push this issue forward. The last bit is that we need somebody to work on it. And so this funding is going to enable Connect to be able to work with the city, work with our governments for composting.
This sets us up on the path to create something that's going to work really well for the city of Pittsburgh and for the greater Pittsburgh region.
And I would like to thank the American Beverage Foundation for a Healthy America and the U.S. Conference of Mayors for this wonderful opportunity. This grant is going to help us make a major difference in our program. So I'm just very thankful for both of those organizations for really blessing the city.
And Mayor Gainey is here with us as well. Thank you, Mayor, again for your leadership in such a great program. And go Steelers. So, in closing, again, I just can't reiterate enough how much we appreciate the jobs you do, how difficult the jobs you have are, especially in these challenging times. And we want to do our part, continue to do our part to support you, whether through programs like this with the U.S. Conference of Mayors or other initiatives where we might be able to work together. So thank you, and I just encourage you to check out these programs and try to tap into the grant programs, and because we'd love to partner with you some more next year and beyond. So thank you for all you do, and have a great conference.
Thank you, Kevin. Raise your hands. Who won the money? Come on. Oh, you did? That's so great. Congratulations. My team back there. Oh, you didn't win the money? Oh, okay. My team back there did not win the money. They are not happy. So I have just been told that we got to step it up. So, okay. All right. So I strongly encourage all of you to apply, because we will announce the application launch at the upcoming annual meeting in Kansas City. So stay tuned for that next opportunity in grants, and show me the money. Okay. Our next panel, the effects of the media on women's leadership and political participation, will explore discriminatory media treatment and gender disinformation campaigns when it comes to female political candidates and elected officials. This discussion is being presented by the Women's Mayors Leadership Alliance of the United States Conference of Mayors. Our moderator is currently serving her 3rd term as the Albany, New York 75th mayor. She has dedicated her administration to creating a city of opportunity, leading with a commitment to equity and responsive government that includes diverse community voices. Please joining me in welcoming one of my most favorite mayors on the planet, Mayor of, Chair of Albany. What is that? Like, this is all jumbled. Here we go. Mayor Kathy Sheehan, please come on out. Come on out. I'm finding him a little dyslexic up here. I am. I'm like, oh, and I'm stuck in here. Okay. All right. Okay, in 2018, she made history as New Orleans' first women mayor in its 300th year history. And, okay, help me out. New Orleans? Nolan. Okay. I thought Mitch Lander taught me how to say that. Say it again. There you go. Okay. Over the course of her 2 terms, she continues to remain focused on the issues of public safety, infrastructure, affordable housing, and improving the quality of life for all New Orleans residents. New Orleans residents. Okay, please welcome to the stage New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell, and she is so much fun. I love hanging out. I love hanging out with LaToya at 2 a.m. at a Denny's. We're fancy. One of my best memories of U.S. Conference of Mayors. Okay, here we go. Joining Mayor Cantrell is the mayor of Jacksonville. She is an award-winning local television news anchor, 3-time cancer survivor, and founder of the nonprofit Donna Foundation. Over her tenure in broadcast journalism, she listened to and shared the stories of people living in every corner of the city from all walks of life. She investigated many of Jacksonville's systemic problems and held people accountable that are in power. As mayor, she is working to create a good quality of life by focusing on infrastructure, public health, and economic development. Please join me in welcoming Jacksonville Mayor Donna Deegan. Come on out. Donna, you're badass. Because we haven't had an opportunity to like really sit down and get to know each other, but you are. I've been following you.
Also first woman mayor of Jacksonville.
Oh, you're the first female mayor of Jacksonville?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Rounding out our dynamic panel, we are honored to be joined by the Washington Bureau Chief for USA Today. Over her career, she has covered 11 presidential campaigns, 7 White House administrations, and she's interviewed the past 10 presidents. That's cool. Okay. She is the author of 2 best-selling books, with the most recent one, Madam Speaker, Nancy Pelosi and the Lessons of Power, shining a light on the life and career of the former Speaker of the House. In the biography, she delves into the issues of gender and sexism, illustrating how social norms for women and Pelosi's alternate embrace and then defiance of them shaped her rise. We are all excited to have her here to share her expertise and knowledge on this topic. Please welcome to the stage the one and only Susan Page.
Thank
Take
you,
it away.
Stevie. And you're going to join us.
I am going to join
for this
you.
conversation. So we're going to get right into it because we don't have that much time. And we really wanted to talk about this topic because I think it does impact everyone in this room. And so we're going to learn a little bit about the gender biases and the things that women face. And then we're going to talk about how all of us can work to ensure that we continue to have women participate in government. Because, you know, I'm 60 years old. I'm the first woman mayor of the city of Albany. I don't want to be the last woman mayor. So I want for young people today to be able to see a world in which they still fit in and that they don't look at us and some of the things that we have to deal with and say, that's not for me. So media outlets are a powerful, powerful player in modern U.S. politics, and it's no secret that the amount and type of attention that politicians receive are crucial. It's crucial to our efforts to win office. And we have seen that media, the political agenda, people's opinions and coverage is not always fair and objective. Female politicians often receive less substantive coverage than their male counterparts. When they receive media attention, it tends to reflect existing gender biases and stereotypes, emphasizing women's issues. And, the coverage or lack of it has a significant impact on our political careers, and it contributes to problems of underrepresentation of women in elected office. So we're going to dive right into this, and we're going to talk about what those effects are. So I want to start by, first of all, thanking you all for agreeing to engage in this conversation. But let's talk about the fact that women are not only underrepresented in news reporting, but frequently we are subjected to gendered disinformation when we do get coverage. How can we move the needle to ensure that media outlets are delivering fair and balanced coverage of women in the political arena? And do these gendered media biases prevent a successful run for office by female candidates? So, Mayor Cantrell, I'll start with you.
I knew you would. Good afternoon, and thank you again. All I can pull off of is my own personal experience. As it relates to, first of all, it's one, you're getting elected, but once you're elected and it's celebrated, or you're the first woman in 300 years, rah, 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 and the moment you're there, it seems to turn and it becomes very negative, and you have to, it's like, it's no longer celebrated. It is every step to diminish or dismantle the work that you're doing. That seems to be the priority. And in addition to that, it's almost this false narrative is that once you're elected and a woman, then your whole life, your whole personal life is accessible. And that's not true. And it's how you are depicted, and it's disrespectful, and it seems to be tolerated, and also that so it's the inside and it's the outside. So looking internally, I know that we're putting out, not only I'm doing the job, but putting out information that demonstrates the work is getting done. But then on the outside, you're giving the information, but none of it is reported on, and they go immediately to your personal life. Well, that tells me that I'm doing a job, because you can't call me out on my job, but you talk about how I dance, how I like music, everything that New Orleans celebrates, I celebrate it too. But as a mayor, it seems to be a problem.
Yeah. I mean, Mayor Deegan, you have
follow that.
But you do have experience with the media. So have you found that has helped you in shaping the story and shaping the narrative?
Well, listen, I think in some ways it's helped me, and in some ways it's hurt me, because one of the very first things I did when I had one of my first news conferences, the whole narrative of, what are you going to do about crime being out of control? I've been in office a day. And I said, well, so why do you guys think crime is the most important issue facing our city? I said, do you want to know why you think that? You think it because that's what you put as the #1 item on your newscasts every single night, and you tell that to people instead of talking to them about other issues. I said, you guys, I'm one of you. I know where you come from. I'm going to call you out on your stuff, and you know I am. And I love the media. I love the local media because they really are the unsung heroes of a lot of things. I have to say that. I really think the media locally does a pretty good job normally. But at the end of the day, I think two things. I have tried to treat them with respect because I come from there, but also because they are so familiar with me. I was a news anchor in my city for 25 years. I think they've sort of gone out of their way to prove that they're not biased for me. So I do think I'm held to a somewhat different standard than are my male counterparts. Also, I think the other really interesting thing is where the qualities that I think women very often bring to this job of collaboration, of empathy, of all those things that seem to be outside of the political space these days. They don't know really how to react to that necessarily. It's they're so used to these male attributes when it comes to leadership. I mean, first woman mayor, first woman mayor, first woman mayor. They're just not used to us too. So I think part of it is really I try to let them in as much as I can, but also I call them on when they say these things. And I think it's really important for the women coming after us that we do that. I think it's very, very important that we call out the BS when we see it.
Yeah. Yeah. So Susan, from your perspective, you've covered this. What enlighten us. What have you seen?
Here I am to defend the media.
I get it.
This is not ideal. First, let me just say what an honor it is to be here with 3 mayors and at your conference. And it is surprising and shocking, and I think amazing, but not necessarily a good thing, that all 3 of you are the first mayors in your city, which shows the level of progress we've made, but still need to make for that to be a remarkable thing. I think in some ways, coverage of politicians generally, maybe mayors in particular, gets better in terms of gendered coverage because more women are working as journalists. When I came to Washington, there was not a single woman who was a bureau chief here. And now, at this point, there are the New York Times, the LA Times, USA Today, all have women bureau chiefs. There are more women covering politics, and I think that adds to changes in the way the media looks at candidates and at mayors, but it's not perfect. And it seems to me, and I would love to hear your perspective as having run for office, it seems to me there are 3 ways you can respond to offensive questions or offensive coverage. One is to ignore it and just plow on. One is to call it out and make the reporter or the news outlet defend it. And the third is to try to respond with humor, which I think in some ways is often the most effective way to make people aware that something has happened that is gendered without looking like you're too aggressive, also one of those double binds for women. But I'd be curious about how you respond. If you get a question that you think, this is an offensive, sexist question, what do you do?
Well, I almost always respond with humor. I mean, I'm comfortable with them. That is one thing. I'm comfortable with all of them, so I'm comfortable to respond that way. So I very often will respond with humor. But I have to say, because you're on the panel, and I hope you won't mind if I hijack just for 1 second. I mean, can you imagine? You did this book with Nancy Pelosi. You remember when John Boehner was in tears and everybody said how adorable that was and how endearing. Can you imagine had Nancy Pelosi?
Women can't cry.
Women
cannot cry. It's like baseball. There's no crying.
So basically, I guess what I'm saying is I think humor is one of the best tools that we have. But I'm going to be honest with you, Susan, as somebody who comes from the media, I see what happens when people are trying to extend the news cycle with another question and another question, and when it goes past a certain point, I will ignore it. I will simply ignore it and say, I'm not going there again.
I would agree. And also when you respond, when you call it out or you say, hey, no bullshit, and I'm kind of known as that. But then I'm perceived as, the angry black woman. Right, hey, I'm a black woman. Right. Hey, it's a whole different ball game. It really is. And so, you do push back. I have to do that. But at the same, I like the humor aspect. I do that as well. But it seems like no matter what, the more you do your job and you do the job, the more vitriol it seems to be for me. And I'm in a southern city. I'm in the South. I'm the first black woman mayor of the city of New Orleans, and the first woman and black who had to say no. And that's never happened in the South. Because if you say no, yeah, I get you.
Right.
But from COVID, having to shut the city down, and it was the first time that we were faced with not being able to get this woman. She said no, the city's down, and oh my God, we're gonna get her.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, one of the things that we, that I think about is that the impact that it is having on those who are watching, the girls who are watching, young women in college who are watching, because, look, I look at my 3 fellow mayors up here, you're all tough, and I know you can hold your own, and I think it's looking at what impact is it having on those who are watching, and so how we might handle it, is up to each of us individually. But Mayor Sheevy, maybe you could talk a little bit because you work with young women all the time. Are you seeing it have an impact? Especially when there's a media story and it might delve into your personal life, those types of things that bleed over from the reporting. It's like the reporting gives permission for more ugliness oftentimes in the social media world.
Oh gosh, don't even get me started. I was.
We only have 2 minutes and 55 seconds.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. Well then, like I always say, I said this yesterday. I never knew how fat, ugly, and stupid I was until I got on Facebook. Right? And quite honestly, I'm in such a different position now because you guys know when you first enter office, it's a totally different scenario until sort of your exit. And I'm one of those, I always believe, turn your haters into elevators. And for so long too, you know, it's kind of like that kid that bullies you forever and you're supposed to ignore him, right? And I mean, I have some constant, and we have some real conspiracy theorists in my city, and even talked about it. I was tracked by a GPS tracker on my car. Just some crazy things, right? So like, I'm in an environment that I sometimes I'm like, is this like normal? And then I talk to some of you guys and I'm hearing sort of same thing. So as women, I think that's another thing. But I hear it all the time from young women, and I think we do a lot of leadership with other women. And you know what they're saying to me? Oh my God, I don't know how you do it. How do you do it? Oh, it's so awful. People say this about you. They say this. It's other young women that are seeing me getting treated that way, and they are just so like, I don't want anything to do with politics. I don't want to go. Or they'd say I had aspired to, you know, go into leadership or be, you know, a senator one day. They don't want to do it now. They're really scared because they see what we go through and how critical, and people are just, they're just mean and abusive.
So maybe we only have a minute left, but one quick piece of advice from each of you about how we can counter that. You know, to me, it's, if you see a female colleague, elected official being treated a certain way in the media, write a letter to the editor. You have no idea what that means to us. I had somebody do that for me once. I didn't ask them to. I read the letter, I didn't even know it had been sent in. But I've had others who emailed me and said, I can't believe how biased that coverage was. That was just despicable. So even just hearing it and feeling that support, like that's one thing that I think people can do to help. What do you think?
Well,
folks could do?
If the media outlets in my town would even print an op-ed that was positive to me, that's the issue that I have. But what I will say is that, bottom line, just keep going. Keep doing the job. Keep doing the work. That's what I tell my team, all my employees. Stay focused. Do the job. The work will speak for us. And also, as I hear from young people in my community, they feel like, oh, empowered. How I handle the media, how I answer the questions. They say, how do you deal with that? You just stay focused, do the job, speak to it, and keep going. And that brings people along,
Okay.
I found.
Yeah, for me, as little drama as possible, but also I raised a lot of women in my administration. I brought a lot of younger women in. I've raised a lot of women in what we've done in Jacksonville, and I think that's really important for the women that are coming up in Jacksonville and in other cities to see that you are elevating women and that their voices matter and that they can do the job. And as you said, just keep going.
Recruit and elect more women to office. I think that creates a kind of critical mass.
All right. We got to wrap it up, but thank you so much, and thank you to this incredible panel. And I think this has been a great conversation. I hope all of you have enjoyed it.
We needed more time.
I know.
We needed more time.
please welcome Secretary, United States Department of Homeland Security, the Honorable Alejandro Mayorkas.
Good afternoon. If I talked about a small group of wealthy Georgia landowners who conspired to kidnap hundreds of people and force them to dig onions with their bare hands for 12 or 15 hours a day without pay, if I said that these victims were housed in unsanitary conditions, beaten, raped, murdered, and prevented from fleeing at gunpoint, all while the perpetrators made millions off their inhumane scheme, you could be forgiven for assuming I was speaking of slavery in the pre-Civil War South. I am not. Such horrific, monstrous situations are still found in the darkest shadows of our country. What I just described was a human and labor trafficking operation that we dismantled only 2 years ago in a collaborative law enforcement effort dubbed Operation Blue Onion. When I say we, I mean the Department of Homeland Security's human trafficking experts, researchers, investigators, and caseworkers, agents from Homeland Security Investigations, United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, and U.S. Customs and Border Protection, working alongside and closely with 5 county sheriff's offices in the region, plus other state and federal partners. I've spoken with many of you about the increasing frequency and gravity of extreme weather events. Last year, I spoke to this conference about the devastating tornado that struck Mayfield, Kentucky, about the 80 lives lost and the $3.5 billion in damages that resulted, and about the work we performed through FEMA with Mayor Onan and her community, a community of residents with great strength, resolve, and perseverance. Many other natural disasters have struck us since. This past August, wildfires ravaged more than 17,000 acres on the island of Maui, killing 100 people, destroying 2,207 buildings, and causing $5.5 billion in damages, making it the 5th deadliest wildfire in our country's history. Working closely every day with Mayor Bisson, more than 1,000 FEMA personnel were on the ground supporting survivors in Maui, including members of our disaster survivor assistance teams. Hawaii received more than $200 million in federal funding, including more than $100 million in direct assistance to survivors. And we made more than 50,000 meals, 75,000 liters of water, 5,000 cots, and 10,000 blankets and shelter supplies available to them. The work by Mayor Bisson, local and state officials, and our department continues. The removal of hazardous material and debris, the rebuilding of homes, offices, and lives. One cannot do it alone. There is a lot more work to do, and we are doing it together. A few days after Thanksgiving, local officials in Las Vegas received a tip, a particularly troubling tip in light of the significant nationwide increase in threats against Jewish, Muslim, and Arab American communities following Hamas's brutal terrorist attack against Israel on October 7. A 16-year-old boy had posted on social media that he would be commencing lone wolf operations in Las Vegas, adding that he was a supporter of the Islamic State and would make sure the Zionists in the city knew it. The city of Las Vegas and its Metropolitan Police Department asked the Department of Homeland Security and our federal partners to immediately assist in their investigation through the local Southern Nevada Counterterrorism Fusion Center and Joint Terrorism Task Force. Working together, it took the joint operation only hours to locate the suspect, A tactical team then took the suspect into custody without incident. In his possession, they found components for building an improvised explosive device and bomb-making recipes, along with significant amounts of ISIS propaganda. Human trafficking, extreme weather, domestic violent extremism, just 3 of the unique Homeland Security threats that each demand our coordinated efforts. Our country's ability to successfully mitigate every challenge to its safety and security has always required close collaboration and good faith cooperation between all levels of government. This is particularly true with regard to our nation's cities, where our partnership with many of you, your teams, and your local stakeholders has saved lives and has also saved time and money. Early last year, in the midst of a particularly difficult surge in violent crime, local Baltimore officials asked agents of DHS's Homeland Security investigations to partner with them on a crime suppression operation. For 6 weeks, members of HSI's Public Safety Unit worked arm in arm with the Baltimore Police Department's Intelligence Unit and state officials, helping to make 45 criminal arrests on murder, rape, home invasion, theft, and other violent felony charges, as well as significant seizures of fentanyl, heroin, crack cocaine, and illegal firearms. One of the men arrested as part of the operation was wanted for attempted murder after an alleged targeted shooting of a witness set to testify in a separate violent crime case. The partnership between local and federal law enforcement was key to Baltimore's almost 20% reduction in homicides and 9% reduction in non-fatal shootings last year. So many of us have experienced the crippling effects of a cyber attack. Bad actors, criminals, and adverse nation states alike have increasingly targeted and damaged hospitals, electricity substations, pipelines, water treatment facilities, and other elements of our nation's critical infrastructure. When malicious actors hacked the Cornelius, North Carolina Police Department in July, DHS, through our Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, worked with local officials to flag unusual network activity, identify that a piece of malware was responsible, isolate the virus, contain it before it could cause significant damage or pose a greater risk, and ultimately investigate its origins to prevent other infrastructure from falling victim. In that case, our collaboration with local officials prevented serious harm from ever occurring. These stories, and many others like them across our country, demonstrate more than the enormous breadth, diversity, and dynamic nature of the mission of the United States Department of Homeland Security. They demonstrate the power of partnership and the critical need for it. As mayors within counties and states, in states that form one nation, you know that no government can operate effectively in a silo. And you know that when we shun collaboration and reject coordination, and when we treat each other as adversaries, not allies, the harmful results speak for themselves. Nowhere is this more evident than in our efforts to tackle the significant challenges at our southern border, where the level of migrant encounters is high. The collaboration and coordination that is needed is not only among federal, state, and local officials. It is also between us and Congress as we work to fix what everyone agrees is a broken immigration system that has needed legislative repair for decades. The needed collaboration and coordination is also between us and our international partners. What we are experiencing at our southern border reflects a challenge that is not unique to our border, but is one that countries throughout our region and throughout our hemisphere are confronting. The regional challenge requires regional solutions. DHS was founded in the wake of 9/11 and charged with facilitating the inter and intra-governmental cooperation necessary to prevent another such terrorist attack against our homeland. In the 20 years since, the threat environment that our country faces and that our department must confront has evolved and expanded dramatically. Foreign terrorism, transnational criminal organizations and lone offenders, the scourge of fentanyl and other synthetic opioids that has been building for years, cybersecurity threats and internet-enabled crimes, the increasing aggressiveness of adverse nation states, human trafficking and online child sexual exploitation and abuse. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children uncovered 88 million images of exploited children last year. The effects of climate change, significant global and hemispheric migration to our border, and much more. Our capabilities, our programs and partnerships have evolved and expanded as well to meet this modern threat environment. Our grant funding has increased to help your cities build and strengthen your terrorism prevention capabilities, prevent, respond to, and recover from natural disasters, and keep faith-based institutions in your cities safe. Our joint cyber defense collaborative, cybersecurity performance goals, cybersecurity grant program, and advisors present in each state have helped your cities and both your public and private institutions build cybersecurity prevention, detection, and response protocols. Our Office of Intelligence and Analysis is sharing more intelligence and information with your police and sheriff's departments, emergency responders, and fusion centers to equip you with the data you need to be prepared for the threats we are seeing. Our use of new technologies, including artificial intelligence, is enabling our task forces to detect more contraband, identify and rescue more victims, and locate and apprehend more criminals. These are just some examples of the many resources we have that are available to you, that we provide to and share with you. In any and every form, our continued collaboration is fundamental to the security of our homeland and to our shared mission of safety, security, stability, and prosperity for all. To borrow the wisdom of the great basketball coach Phil Jackson, the strength of our nation comes from each individual community, and the strength of each community is drawn from the nation. Cities, your cities, are the engines of the Homeland Security enterprise, and we have ample strength across every one of the most pressing Homeland Security challenges that I urge of you to draw upon. I am grateful to Mayor Sheevey and the U.S. Conference of Mayors for convening all of us today and for helping to facilitate the critical continued partnership between the nation's cities and its federal government. Thank you for your commitment to this work, and thank you for the honor of speaking with you today.
Please remain seated. Our program will resume momentarily.
Please welcome Senior Advisor and Assistant to the President and Director of the White House Office of Intergovernmental Affairs, Tom Perez.
Good afternoon. It's great to be with you. Thank you so much. It's been Old Homes Day, looking around here, connecting with so many old friends and meeting new mayors who are kicking butt. I'm so excited to be here with you. Special thanks to Tom Cochran. I call him the Cal Ripken of nonprofit leadership, doing so much for so long. Tom, thank you so much for what you do. You know, the president, if you haven't figured out, really values mayors. Two of my good friends in the administration, Mayor Mitch Landrieu, former president of this great body. And who followed Mitch Landrieu? Steve Benjamin, you got that right. And both Mitch Landrieu and Steve Benjamin are in the House. And they are indispensable parts of the president's team. And as someone who served in local government, state government, federal government, it's a fancy way of saying I couldn't hold a job. I am thrilled to be here with you because I really believe that having folks from local government, and the president truly believes that having folks from local government is indispensable to our success as a country. We are all in this together, my friends, and that is how we succeed together. And in my current role as the Director of Intergovernmental, I have the privilege day in and day out of interacting with mayors and governors and county executives to advance the president's agenda. And I'm a firm believer that it's really important to understand the moment in time in which we are living. Because if you understand the moment, you can meet the moment. If you don't understand the moment passes you by. We are in a moment of both unprecedented peril, but we are in a moment of remarkable, unprecedented opportunity. I am very confident in saying to you that when you look back on your careers as mayors and ask the question, when did I get the most help and partnership from the federal government? It will be right now. Because I used to be your labor secretary, and before that I ran the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department. The laws we enforced in those two jobs, the civil rights movement of the 60s were most of those laws. The New Deal of the 30s were what I did at the Labor Department. The two most tumultuous decades of the 20th century were also the 2 decades in which we made the most progress in writing this social compact of the United States. And right now, we are in that third moment of opportunity. You have seen unprecedented investments from the president in the Investing in America agenda. It's all about making sure that everyone has access to opportunity. President Xi, I am so honored that you have made mental health your focus. It's such an appropriate focus. And by the way, when I think about mental health issues, I think about broadband. Because if you live in rural pockets of this country and you need telemedicine, you need high-speed internet. That's why the president understands, and President Xi understands, that we have to make sure we have internet for all. All of the things that we have done. I come here like the president will come to you tomorrow with great optimism. And I don't think it's misplaced optimism. I don't think it's naivete. I think it's progress born out of partnership. Look at all we have done together. It's so inspiring to go to your communities. And every time we show up, whether it's the president, the vice president, Mayor Landrieu, Mayor Benjamin, myself, members of the cabinet, we're invariably greeted by a mayor who's had countless conversations with your constituents to tell us what we are doing right, what we need to do more of, and what we need to change. That partnership is enabling us to make unbelievable progress in building our roads, building our bridges, investing in clean water, investing in broadband, urban, suburban, rural, Broadband is like water, an essential public necessity that should be affordable and accessible to everyone. And together we have done that. You have many seniors among you, $35 a month for insulin. That's from the Invest in America agenda. We will continue to do things like this. Over 20 million people are now enrolled in the Affordable Care Act exchanges. That is historic. And we will soon have the final number, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's over 21 million people enrolled. That is critically important. And your support, you're getting the word out in your community. You are the trusted emissaries in your communities. And that is why we love working with you. And so many of our successes have been attributed to that partnership and to your leadership. You are truly in the front lines of democracy. You were truly in the front lines of the pandemic, doing things day in and day out. And everywhere we go, whether it was Wausau, Wisconsin, or northern New Hampshire, wherever we are, we see examples of communities in action coming together to make sure that we don't miss this moment. That's what it's about. And that is why I come to you. The Vice President comes to you momentarily, and the President comes to you tomorrow with optimism, because this is truly that generational opportunity for our country. And we all succeed only when we all succeed. And we will continue to think through everything pursuant to the President's directive through that equity lens, making sure that zip code never determines destiny, making sure that opportunity is indeed available for all. And you look at the data, you look at the number of jobs that have been created. We're on the verge of the 2 years in a row now under 4% unemployment. That's unprecedented in over 50 years. That's a big deal. There's another saying we have in the White House for big deals, but I will keep this G-rated. And these wins, you look at small business starts, you look at all the things we're doing again for seniors, and we will continue this work. You look at what we're doing for veterans through the PACT Act to make sure that those who've made those sacrifices understand that government will always be there. That's what we're doing. And today, we are going to continue that conversation. We're going to continue it with two remarkable people. The first person I want to invite out is the mayor of Kansas City. Now, it's a little hard for me to introduce. I love Quentin Lucas, almost always. But you got to understand, I'm from Buffalo, New York. Okay? Mayor Lucas, come on out. We love Mayor Lucas. Mayor Lucas, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you, bro. Thank you for your partnership. It's so inspiring to talk to Mayor Lucas, to talk to all of you that I've been here with this morning who want to help people, who want to help us address our migrant challenges, who want to help us address our healthcare challenges. Too many people have lost hope, and you give them hope. And Mayor Lucas, you give hope every single day. And I am so honored to introduce a person who has been a trailblazer, a ceiling buster, a leader in a local level, a leader at a state level, and our Vice President of the United States, Vice President Kamala Harris.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. And President Shivi, thank you for convening us.
Thank you, Madam Vice President, and say hello, mayors, to the Vice President. We are delighted and honored to be with you, but we also discuss an important topic. Following the onset of the pandemic and the nationwide protests after the murder of George Floyd, we saw a spike in homicides in cities across the country. Innocent lives were being lost, communities were being shattered. But when you and the President took office, you immediately began to address the scourge of gun violence in our country. The president issued several important executive orders, and federal agencies put policies in place to help reduce the problems of gun violence and to support local prevention and enforcement efforts. And in 2022, Congress passed and President Biden signed the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. For those who don't know, the first piece of legislation to strengthen our gun laws in decades. And last year, you and President Biden established the first ever White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention. Thank you on behalf of all of our cities. We have begun to see some progress, and during 2023, many cities had significant reductions in homicides. But make no mistake, gun violence remains a serious problem in our cities and in our nation. But we're seeing a glimmer of hope, and that's what we're here to talk about today. This past fall, Madam Vice President, you met with over 15,000 students across the country on your Fight for Our Freedoms college tour. What did you hear from them, and what was on their minds?
Good. Well, thank you, Mayor Lucas. It's good to be with you today. And to all the mayors who are here, let me start by thanking you for the extraordinary calling that you have answered to serve, in particular, at the local government level. And as Tom said, I once served as district attorney at the local level, and so I fully appreciate what your lives are like. People recognize you as the face of government. And they run into you at the grocery store, the gas station, at your children's softball games, and it is you that they recognize as being responsible for and accountable for all of the concerns that they may have about their life and the world. And you all rise to the level every day. And it takes a lot in terms of personal sacrifice, but also a deep commitment to service. And so let me start by thanking the U.S. Conference of Mayors and all of the members for the work that you do. Thank you. To you. So on the issue of gun violence, let me start with this, and back to the point about my previous service. I started my elected career as the elected district attorney of San Francisco. And I will tell you that, and that was following a career of being a courtroom prosecutor, where among the cases that I prosecuted, homicide cases. So I have witnessed and seen autopsies. I know what guns do and gun violence does to the human body. For so many of you, you too know what gun violence does to people, to a community, to families, to the psyche of a community, to the well-being and health of a community. So when we have this conversation among us, this is not some intellectual, academic discourse. It is very real. It is part of our lived existence. And it is that approach that I bring then to my thoughts about this issue. So I started a college tour last fall because, I have to tell you, I love Gen Z. Yes, I know, but I love Gen Z. And it will be a humbling fact to many of us when we realize that anyone who is 18 today, they were born in 2005. Indeed, yes, wow. And this generation, for so many of these issues, it's a lived experience. Think about it. For this generation of who I call young leaders, they've only known the climate crisis. In fact, they've coined a term, climate anxiety, to describe their fears about having children or buying a home for fear that it may be destroyed because of extreme climate incidents. They witnessed George Floyd being killed. They endured a historic pandemic where they lost also significant phases of their educational process. They have, through their lives, and I would ask at the college tour them to raise their hands in these auditoriums. Who of you, please raise your hand, I would ask, had to endure an active shooter drill any time between kindergarten and 12th grade? Almost every hand went up. And in fact, I'd say to the press that was always in the room and the older adults, please take a look and take account of this. Because I think so many older adults don't really understand what our children, the children of our community, have been going through. And also, they, at the height of their reproductive years, just witnessed the highest court in our land take a freedom from them to make decisions about their own body, such that they will have fewer rights than their mothers and grandmothers. So on so many of these issues, it was reinforced for me during this college tour that these are lived experiences and it has had a profound impact on their lives. And they therefore think about these issues with a sense of urgency that the solutions that are often at hand be implemented. And they are right to demand that we, in positions of elected leadership right now, do something about it with a sense of urgency. They are acutely aware of what we know, which is that gun violence is the leading cause of death of the children of America. Leading cause of death, not car accidents, not some form of cancer, gun violence. 1 in 5 Americans has a family member that was killed as a result of gun violence. I have traveled most of your states over the last 3 years. I have met with parents who say a silent prayer every time their child gets on the school bus or they drop them off at school, that there's nobody running around with an assault weapon breaking into their school, the school of their child, while they're at a place where they should be fulfilling their God-given capacity to learn. So the young people of our country have lived through this and they want to change. And they understand what I think so many of us do. It is a false choice to suggest you're either in favor of the Second Amendment or you want to take everyone's guns away. I'm in favor of the Second Amendment, but is it not reasonable that we would have an assault weapons ban, understanding that assault weapons were literally designed to kill a lot of human beings quickly and are weapons of war with no place on the streets of a civil society? They want and know. They understand, like so many of us, the logic behind universal background checks, which is pretty simple. You just might want to know before someone can buy a lethal weapon if they've been found by a court to be a danger to themselves or others. You just might want to know. It's reasonable. Same point with red flag laws. So on this issue, it is a lived experience, and they are aware of the solutions. And I think, frankly, when they start voting in their numbers, we're going to see a sea change. But I will also say on this issue, I was just in North Carolina, and I met with a group of young students. They're in middle school. And I convened a group of them without the press. It wasn't about the press, to talk with them because each one of them had personally experienced gun violence, either because they witnessed it, they had a family member, or they were there, but they witnessed it when someone was shot. And the undiagnosed and therefore untreated trauma that results from violence of any sort, and in particular gun violence, is very real. I would urge the mayors here, there's a book that I'm very fond of. It's called The Deepest Well, and it was written by a former Surgeon General, and talks about the prevalence in our cities, urban, suburban, rural communities, of undiagnosed, untreated trauma, and how that can then lead to a number of behavioral issues, obviously, but also physiological symptoms. And when we think about our youngest children through adulthood witnessing this kind of violence and the impact it has then, that becomes almost inherited trauma, not genetically inherited, but inherited from the environment, and what that results in terms of behaviors that are not productive for a community, much less harmful to the individual. So all of these issues are the issues that you address as mayors. So many of you have been leaders in a fundamental way around what we need to do around intervention, what we need to do around community approach, what we need to do around prevention. And as Tom Perez said, the work that we have done through bipartisan work, thankfully, first time in 30 years on gun violence, has resulted in federal dollars flowing to you, and hope you got it. Call Tom if you didn't. But to support the work that you are doing at a local level to address all of these issues, including the issue of trauma and treatment and the need for more mental health services. During the college tour, and I'll end with this, I also issued a national call to our young leaders to enter the mental health professions. And I was thinking and had in my mind from decades earlier, remember there was a national call for people to become social workers. Similarly, we know some of the best treatment that can be offered for anyone who needs assistance is peer-based. And thinking about our young leaders, their learned experience, and then being able to be part of the solution in terms of the mental health counseling is also, I think, important.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. On the topic of fundamental rights and freedoms, you've made clear, and I thank you for this, that every American has the right to live safe from gun violence. Yeah. And let's go back to what you just mentioned with North Carolina. The administration is making historic progress, as was exemplified by your announcement in Charlotte last week,
yes,
of an additional $285 million to help hire and train school counselors across the country. $285 million for school counselors across the country. That is just one way you are collaborating with mayors across the country. But what is your recommendation to mayors as to how we can tackle this epidemic?
Well, so you mentioned Charlotte, and I want to thank Mayor Lyles. I know you're here because I just saw you a minute ago. And so what we did, Mayor Lyles convened a group of leaders in the community. And they were teachers, they were school board members, they were parents, they were also parents of children who had been killed because of gun violence. Mental health providers, and it was a very productive conversation. And Mayor Lyles just shared with me that the result of that conversation was even more work, which is always my intent. I have this saying among many, which is, we meet to do our job is not to meet. I think all of you will appreciate that point. And so that meeting, from it actually came more work, which is good. And it was an opportunity, I think, for Mayor Lyles, if I can speak for her, to actually have an opportunity to bring folks together who are in some ways working in silos simply because they're just trying to get through the days and nights with the fewer resources than they actually need, and allowing them to then think about how they can collaborate and work together. So the convening power of mayors is extraordinary. In addition to, and because, of course, you then as mayors have the power to convene not only the community-based providers, but the folks from city agencies, folks from law enforcement, and to create these conversations where invariably ideas will come from and plans can be hatched to create greater synergy. So I would encourage that. And I would encourage you to, as often as you can, do what you do, which is be a voice for all those folks who must be seen and whose experiences must be known. I think there's so much about the challenges that we face as a nation that end up being minimized through the political discourse in a way that really is about politics more than it is substance or policy. And you all don't have the luxury of doing that because of what you need to accomplish each day. And your voices are so credible and important to amplify the experiences of your constituents. And I know it's not easy to do, but it is very important when you do it. And I thank you for that as well.
Thank you so much for that as well. I also want to give a shout out, we mentioned it before, but the White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention is doing amazing work. I had the chance to meet with them just a few weeks ago. I know they have met with mayors, state legislators. I encourage you, every city, large and small, working on gun violence prevention, reducing intimate partner violence, which is a significant issue for us, and doing important work. So for my final question, you have often put the fight for freedoms from gun violence in the context of more of our fights for freedoms.
Yeah.
And we know that next week you will begin your Fight for Reproductive Freedom tour.
Yes.
And we welcome you to Kansas City as part of it.
Thank you.
And thank you for doing this tour. In light of the Dobbs decision, what are the most important things for all of us to do to assure reproductive freedom in our nation?
I'll start with this. I think we can all agree that one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree that the government should not be telling her what to do with her body. If she chooses, she will talk with her priest, her pastor, her rabbi, her imam. But that the government should not be telling her what to do with her body. And if we could perhaps frame the discourse around that so that we understand that this is not about trying to convert someone in terms of their beliefs. It is simply saying that we respect autonomy and bodily autonomy, and frankly, that we trust women to know what's in their own best interest. And everyone can say that. So that is it in terms of a fundamental concept that is at play on the issue of freedoms. But here's the other thing about this issue, and it is again an issue where we, especially those who serve in local office and have direct contact with your constituents on a daily, hourly, minute-by-minute basis, understand, so for so many of us, I'm going to judge that most of us, for our entire adult or conscious lives, Roe v. Wade was intact. And, many of us would, start with, we are pro-choice, we must protect Roe, but didn't necessarily think it was ever going to go away. Well, it did. And there has been a consequence of that is very real to real people who are silently suffering every day. We are a group of adults. So I'm going to just share with you what you may know. There are women in America having miscarriages in toilets. There are women who have been denied emergency care because the healthcare providers at the emergency room are afraid that they may go to jail for assisting these women in giving them health care that they want to give. I shared with you I was a prosecutor. Well, many of you may not know why. One of the reasons I became a prosecutor is my best friend in high school, I learned, was being molested by her stepfather. And when I learned, I said to her, well, you have to come and stay with us. I called my mother. My mother said, yes, she has to come stay with us, and she did. And I decided I wanted to take on the issue of violence against women and children, and most of my career as a prosecutor was to do just that. I bring that up to say, there are laws that have been proposed and passed that make no exception even for rape or incest. Understand what that means. We are saying to a survivor of a crime of violence, a violation of their body, that you don't have the authority or right to make a decision about what happens to your body next. That's immoral. So on this issue, I would ask us all who have a voice to consider all those who are silently suffering. The majority of women who have abortions in America are mothers. God help her that she has paid family leave, paid sick leave, has a bit of savings to be able to afford a bus or train or a plane ticket to go where she needs to go to get the health care she needs if it's not available in her own state. Understand what this means. And there is it is occurring in an environment that also is laden with judgment, as though she's done something wrong. something she should be embarrassed about. And as all of us know, when we isolate people, we strip them of their power, and it hurts our whole community. So on this issue, the president has been clear, we are clear, that when Congress puts back in place what the court took away, President Joe Biden will sign back into law the protections of Roe v. Wade. So elections matter, and we got to get there. We got to get there.
Madam Vice President, on behalf of the United States Conference of Mayors, God bless you.
And you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the Vice President of the United States.
Thank you all.
Our program will begin momentarily. Please remain seated. Our program will begin momentarily. Please welcome Vice President, Nationwide Foundation, Nationwide Retirement Solutions, USCM Platinum Partner, Kristen Rost.
Thank you. Good afternoon. It's always great to go after such a great speaker, so I hope you bear with me. Well, I am thrilled to be here with Nationwide Retirement Solutions and our long-standing partnership with the Conference of Mayors. This partnership is incredibly important to us as it helps us to reach more employees to live and prepare for retirement. It's also important to us to help support our communities and to support our communities in partnership with all of you, our local mayors. Wanted to spend some time talking to you about one example that we've rolled out in Ohio that we're really proud of. Starting with this slide showing that we moved up from number 43 on People's Companies That Care list to number 11. And one of the main reasons that we moved up such a big jump in 1 year was because of our public-private partnership. In 2018, Nationwide Foundation and a lot of partners formed the Ohio Opioid Education Alliance. Right now, we have over 170 public and private partners. And we came together to create a couple campaigns. In 2018, we launched the Denial Ohio campaign, and then in 2021, launched the Beat the Stigma campaign. The main reason for these campaigns is we knew that the opioid crisis was hitting our associates at Nationwide, and we had elected officials come to us and say, is there anything that Nationwide could do? We are good at commercials, and so we said, hey, we can come to the table and create a public awareness campaign like you've not seen before. And we were really successful with that campaign. In 2018, it just ran in the Central Ohio market. Mayor Ginther was a huge supporter and one of our first public partners, and so we really thank you, Mayor, for that. That campaign had fantastic results. And so then Governor DeWine came to us in 2021 and said, hey, can you recreate magic? Can you get as great of results statewide in all of Ohio's 88 counties? And we said we would try. So the governor put in $9.75 million, which is a good chunk of money for a prevention campaign, and really encouraged the Nationwide Foundation and the private sector to raise funds. And so we raised more from companies across Ohio than the public sector put in. But it made it tricky because along the way, mayors and counties in Ohio were also joining the campaign and giving funds. So we had to keep raising, the private sector had to keep raising more money. But the campaign that we created, Beat the Stigma, and I'm going to show you the creative here in a second, has 2 calls to action: to challenge what you know about addiction and mental health. What we found in Ohio is Ohioans think they know a lot about mental health and addiction, but they don't know. And they held a lot of biases. We also need to know our risks. These are both mental health and addiction run in families, and so need to understand that family history. I'm going to jump back. I'm going to show you the campaign first. So here is one of our Beat the Stigma commercials that are running throughout Ohio.
They've been living with anxiety or depression. You say? Ben, just snap out of it. What? Maddie?
You have no reason to be depressed.
That's actually harmful. Push through it. No.
Everyone gets sad sometimes.
No. Come on, you don't have it that bad. No. But let's see what you can say. I'm here for you. You're not alone. Talking to someone could help. That was close. Not even remotely. You did not. Beat the stigma.
And then I'm going to show you the next one, too, that's running in market. Maybe.
Welcome to Beat the Stigma. 10 seconds on the clock. Players, which of these guests lives with depression? Go.
Guest number 1 looks like he has a good job, so it can't be him.
What?
Guess number 2 is too young to be depressed.
That's a stigma.
Guest number 3 looks way too happy to have a mental health issue.
Wow. No. It's all of them. People of all ages and backgrounds can have depression. You did not beat the stigma.
That was my next guest.
Oh, yeah?
They are great. I heard someone say these are great, and they are. And they're great because of the collaboration. And here's some success markers that I just wanted to show really quick. 96% of people in Ohio, this is amazing, have heard of Beat the Stigma and can recall. Some of them think it's a real game show, but that's all right. I mean, that's amazing. At Nationwide, our marketing team is how can we get 96% of folks in the United States to know about our products? And then, the other one that I think is really important is 62% of Ohioans want to know more about mental health from their employer. So we're working with Ohio State, the Ohio State University, and gathering a lot of information. But what makes these campaigns so successful is that it was a true collaboration. Our creative folks at Nationwide came back with the first draft, and we put it in front of public officials. We put it in front of mayors, the governor in Ohio, county commissioners who weighed in and said, you need to change this, or maybe don't do this. But at the same time, our creative folks were sitting in the room and saying, hey, I know you want to be all things to all people, but if we do that, we'll dilute the message. And so it was a true collaboration. Those meetings were long and took a while because everyone had different thoughts. But I think because we collaborated with different expertise, we got such a great product. The other thing I wanted to point out, if I can go back, is this activation slide. So we had to also be creative on how we activated the campaign. And one other thing that we found that works at Nationwide is influencers. Another thing that was an idea of Governor DeWine was to have all of the professional sports teams in Ohio join the campaign, invest in the campaign, play the creative in their stadiums, and then have an influencer that we wouldn't have to pay to help spread the message. And so our sports teams all joined the alliance and really galvanized. But I do want to point out, I don't know if Mayor Bibb is still here, but Mayor Bibb performed better on social media for us than Marvin Harrison Jr. So mayors have great power. And if you are in Ohio and haven't joined, I think almost all good majority of the mayors have joined. But if you are an Ohio mayor who hasn't joined, we'd love for you to join the alliance. And if you are a mayor not in Ohio, we'd love to have you reach out to us at the Nationwide Foundation, and let's think big on how we can really change community problems together, both from the corporate side and the public side. So I really appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Please welcome President and CEO, American Hotel and Lodging Association, Chip Rogers.
Thank you. First of all, let me say thanks to the U.S. Conference of Mayors for hosting this event in a hotel and not a short-term rental. All right, who are we? All right, so let's get into who we are. So, and I'm going to talk about this really quickly. Who are we? We represent the hotel industry, almost every hotel in the United States, including this wonderful place. Hotels support 1 in every 25 jobs in the United States, and we generate a ton of tax revenue. In fact, when people come and stay in a hotel, for every $100 they spend in a hotel, they spend $220 in the local economy. So it is clearly an economic driver. But let's talk about a problem that everybody in here is dealing with, and that is workforce housing shortage. Now, you may have had a speaker previously at this event who suggested that turning residential properties into commercial lodging establishments doesn't really have an impact on housing. Common sense might tell us otherwise. In fact, the statistics tell us otherwise. Look at the housing inventory here and what has happened over the last few years, and look at the median home price. This is why so many people that are first responders, teachers, law enforcement, have such a difficult time finding a place to live in your cities, because it has gotten incredibly expensive. But it's very simple. When you take residential property and you turn it into commercial property, the price is going to go up. It's just basic economics. Well, how much has happened? Well, if you look right now, and we have data, and I'll share it with you in just a second, or where you can get it. If you look right now, there are 1.85 million short-term rental property listings in the United States. These are active listings that are being rented out on a daily basis. That's 1.85 million residential homes that have been turned into commercial lodging properties. Just in 2016, that number was only 600,000. So you can see how this has changed. So again, if you're asking yourself, why are prices going up? Why is it so difficult to have affordable housing? This is clearly one of the determining factors. Now, one of the solutions, and I think it may have been referenced yesterday, is what New York City did. So here are the numbers. New York City became the first city that went all the way through the legal process in being able to regulate in a way that we believe is the most effective way to regulate properties. Now, I want to be real clear about who I represent. We have short-term rental companies that are members of our association. Marriott Hotels rents short-term rental properties. But if you want to be a member of our association, you have to make one pledge, and that is you will comply with all local hotel regulations, because we believe that if you're in the lodging business, you should just compete fairly. You should just play by the same rules. It's real simple. We're not asking for favoritism. Just play by the same rules. Well, that was not happening in New York City. And you saw what was happening, and residents were rightfully so getting very upset. Well, they enacted legislation. Of course, they were sued. They're always sued. You're always going to get sued by these folks when you try to do the right thing. But after it went through the legal process and it went into effect, you can see what happened, an 83% drop. Those are properties that are now going back to residents as they should be. And I'll close with this. We have some incredible software, and if you go to our table out here, the AHLA table, you can look up your city, you can look up your neighborhood, you can look up your house, and just tell us how many short-term rentals are within 5 blocks of me, how many short-term rentals are in my entire city, what does that look like, what's the average daily rate, what's the occupancy rate. We can tell you all of that, we'll do it for free, we'll help you craft legislation. This is the final thing I'll say. Last year, there were 10 states that attempted to enact legislation that would preempt any city or county from regulating short-term rentals. Only one state's ever done that. That was the state of Arizona. They repealed it because it was such a bad idea. But those who don't want to live by regulations tried this in 10 states last year. We were able to defeat them in all 10 states, but we need your help. When this comes to your state, an effort to take away your authority to regulate the residential and commercial property in your city, please let us help you. We want to be there standing by your side to make sure that you maintain control of this very important subject matter. Thank you for your time today.
Please welcome USCM past president and on behalf of Major League Baseball, Doug Palmer.
I'm going to use a I'm going to use a phrase that's appropriate for play ball. So I'm pinch hitting for Tony Regans, who is our Chief Development Officer for baseball, because he had to leave, catch a plane. But first of all, I want to thank all of you mayors who have participated in play ball for 9 years, and the new ones that have just signed up. And also to make you aware that if you haven't signed up for play ball, you can do so in the hallway at our booth throughout the conference. Play ball is an initiative that was introduced by Commissioner Manfred with the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and it's about young kids learning the fun of playing baseball. And we're not talking about kids that already know how to play baseball. We're talking about youngsters that don't know that much about baseball, but come out with fun activities that the mayor helps lead, whether it's in the spring, in the summer camps, or in the fall. We will send you T-shirts, we'll send you the banners, and the Sandlot equipment. We've also added, and I think you've heard a lot about the mental health issue that our President Hillary Shebe is talking about and addressing the mental health problem. Nothing is better for these young kids to get out and have fun, meet friends, new friends, and to be a part of it. And as a result of it, our partnership with the Conference of Mayors, we have these bracelets that all your youngsters who participate in the program will receive, and they can wear this. It has our crisis hotline number on there. Before I leave, please note that June 14th to the 16th is, again, Play Ball Weekend, and all 30 Major League Baseball clubs and 120 minor league clubs will be hosting this event. Now, these events are in addition to your Play Ball event. So in conclusion, I'd just like to, again, thank you. Please sign up if you haven't. We're going to be sending you those real sweet baseball caps, Play Ball caps, and we'll be doing our Tip Your Cap event as well. So again, thank you. Get your youngsters involved in this and play ball. Thank you. Have a great conference.
Please welcome former USCM past president, former White House senior advisor and infrastructure coordinator, Mitch Landrieu.
Oh my goodness, how y'all doing? I am in between y'all and getting out of here. So I'm gonna go quick. This is a hello, it's a nice to see you, it's a goodbye, and I wanna meet you again. I, on Friday, ended my 2-year term with President Biden as his senior advisor and the person he asked to help coordinate the rebuilding of this country. On November 9, 2021, I was just fixing to go fishing and my phone rang, and it was somebody from the president's office who said, the president would like you to come up here and help him rebuild the country. And I said, well, why'd you call me? And he says, because you have a GSD degree. I said, what's a GSD degree? I know what a PhD is. He says, you know how, because you're a mayor, to get stuff done. And I said, well, I appreciate that. You know I do. So as I look out all over the mayors, y'all know this. The vice president was out here just a minute ago, and she talked a little bit about how immediate you are. Tom, you've been living this life. Thank you so much. It's great to see you and all of you here. But you be at a restaurant, you just with your partner. First time in like maybe 2 weeks, you get to sit down with your dinner, and maybe you got your kids with you, and one of your constituents walks up to you and says, nah, I know you with your family. And I know you probably haven't seen them in a long time. And I know you probably don't want me to talk to you. But while I got you, that happens to all of us all the time because you are on the ground. And you know the President of the United States, Joe Biden, started off as a local elected official, and your vice president started off as a local elected official, and they know that as well. The President of the United States understands that in order to get stuff done, you cannot do it without the mayors. You guys are the engines in the United States of America. And when you try to rebuild the country, this is what Joe Biden understands that very few presidents have ever understood, is that not only does the federal government have to show up with money and rightly ordered, they have to help make it work. You know, it used to be a long time ago, you'd ask the federal government for money, they say they didn't have it. Or if they had it, they didn't tell you where it was. Or if they knew where it was hard to get. Or if you couldn't get it, they tried to get it back from you. That's not what Joe Biden did. Joe Biden said, I'm going to put $1.2 trillion on the table. I'm going to put the American Rescue Plan money on the table so mayors don't have to lay off firefighters and police officers and EMS, and they can use that money for whatever you want. Now, all of y'all know this. If I'm lying, I'm dying. That American Rescue Plan money might be the best money that y'all ever got, right? It might be as good as the CDBG money that came out of HUD for a long time, because you know why? It trusts you. It trusts the mayors to invest that money where you need it, where it's in health prevention, or whether it's in criminal justice, or whether it's in public safety or gun violence. That's why the president did that. And then they passed a bipartisan infrastructure law, and then the CHIPS Act, then the Inflation Reduction Act. All of these things have something in common, that Joe Biden understands that when you invest in the people of America, when we come together, we can build big things. So roads and bridges and airports and ports and waterways, high-speed internet, because knowledge is the great equalizer. Every kid in America understands that if you don't have access to the internet, you're SOL. Y'all can use whatever word y'all want, but you know what I'm talking about. You don't need to be sitting in the back of your mama's car trying to do your homework, stealing your internet from McDonald's when you're trying to compete in the 21st century economy. And for folks that live in rural areas, you know how important that is too. Clean air and safe water. I don't know if Mayor Baraka's in here, but in Newark, they're already finished changing out their pipes so kids don't have to drink dirty water out of lead pipes. And you know what? Flint's done as well. And then finally, building a clean energy economy. The president understands all that stuff. And in the last 2 years, we have put money out of the door. Much of it has come to you. We're building 40,000 projects. 40,000 seeds have been planted. Now, I want y'all to remember this. I'm not looking out there. I can't see you. I don't know how old all of y'all are, but I don't see anybody out there older than Eisenhower, except Tom. Tom remembers when Eisenhower built the interstate system. He and John Rousakis and all those mayors back there when my daddy was running around the country trying to rebuild New York, they could not get the money to do something that big. But this $1.2 trillion and the CHIPS Act and the Inflation Reduction Act is the biggest investment that we have had, because Joe Biden understands that that's what you do. And more importantly, he understands that when the federal government and the state government and the local government and the not-for-profit sector and the faith-based community and the business community and labor all show up at the same table, when we as Americans work together, we actually can do big things, and America can win. Now, I would be remiss before I got off the stage if I didn't talk for a second about the Vice President's message about freedom. Because essentially what we're facing in this country is a challenge to our democratic norms, which if they go away, the very basic idea that we all come to the table of democracy, if that idea dies, the idea of America dies with it. And that, my friends, is what we're litigating in this country right now. The president understands that, and he understands that when those freedoms are cut loose and people have the ability to do the things they need to do, then we can build an economy from the bottom up and the middle out. And yes, we can protect kids. We can protect kids who have a right to walk back and forth from their home to a school and safe again so they can learn and not have to worry about getting under their desk. The violence on the streets of America is unacceptable, and you, the mayors, are the ones that have to fix this problem. I have had the great honor and joy of serving for the president for 2 years. I ended my term of office with him on Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock. The president asked me if I would to help co-chair his campaign for re-election, and I accepted that incredible honor. I'm not going to give you a political speech today. You'll hear that from me later. But I do want to tell you the big difference between the ex-president and the current president and the big ideas that they represent with one very simple story, and I'll leave it to you to figure out why it's so critical. Tom, when I was president of this conference, you may recall, on the day that is tomorrow, when you were supposed to go to the White House, we were having a press conference, and Mayor Rahm Emanuel was sitting next to me, and we were getting ready to go over to the White House that was occupied by the former president. And literally, while we were standing at the microphone having our press conference, getting ready to go, we got a letter from the ex-president's attorney general threatening to put in jail the mayors of America who dared to try to make their community safe. Now, I want you to think about President Biden showing up with $1.2 trillion, the American Rescue Plan, the CHIPS Act, bringing back manufacturing, rebuilding your communities, begging you to be a part of their life. And ask yourself just a very, very, very simple difference. What's life going to be like in a different program. And just remember this, Donald Trump thinks that we ought to put mayors in jail. Joe Biden thinks he ought to hire mayors to help run America because we get stuff done. I'm going to leave that with you. God bless you. I'll see y'all. Have a good day.
Thank you for attending. This meeting is adjourned. Be sure to participate in the breakout sessions. Thank you.